Hello, everybody. This is Paco3D.art, and today we are doing the controllers of the arms. So we are following from what we did a few days ago. So essentially, I initially created the controllers of the back here, the neck, and also the head. But today we are doing, if I move this aside for a second, today we are doing the clavicle, the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist, and then it's kind of hard to see it because we got this selected at the moment. But also we're gonna do the wrist, and then we're gonna do the fingers. Because I've got the body and this bone selected, I'm just gonna do a quick here with the bind skin. We're gonna do a quick selected joints because if you see here, I don't have the ends selected of the fingers, but also of the clavicle or the end of these guys here as well. And I'm just doing this just so I can see a little bit easier. I'm going to change the influence to 5, a bit easier to see. Press no on those eyes. Okay, close. Because I want to show you, well, it did not work, that's fine. Just to show you what we're going to do today. So we got here, for example, the controller of the elbow, and it does not want to undo that for some reason. Found it very interesting. Doesn't want to undo that movement. But then here I've got this one here. So I've got the shoulder, I've got the clavicle, but also of all the fingers. So I did come up with some interesting methods to create the clavicle controller here, but also the shoulder. Also, if you can see all the controllers here of the fingers, they are really tight and close to the body. So this controller here, if I go like that, it's gonna be really nice. And if I select those, just the curves, do a big square like that, and I rotate that, that all rotates really nicely with that as well. Okay, and they all rotate together. Give me a minute. So I'm gonna give that another go with using the closest in hierarchy. I find that's a bit easier. So now let's see if that works. So if I say select this guy here, so that's moving there. And by the way, this is a very cheap skin bind. Like I haven't done like proper skin binding, but just to see how the controllers are working there. This is where I will show you. Man, this one here does not undo. So if I move this and then I press undo, it doesn't undo the movement. I've never had that problem before. That's very interesting. I wonder if when I recreate this for you, for everybody, if that's gonna work. But then if I do this one here, cool. Don't worry too much about the skin binding. It's just to show that that's moving, and this is what we're gonna do. Okay, let's commence. I'm gonna delete everything, and I will pause in a second and start over again. By the way, deleting all those controllers did hurt a little bit. But let's start with the clavicle and move the way down to all the fingers because I've got some cool techniques. So one thing that I find that's a lot of fun, it's very nice. So here, if I select the geo, sometimes you can create your own custom controllers. So if you go in here, you got a bunch of things. But the clavicle has got like a very interesting shape, and sometimes you want to make sure that kind of sticks close to the body. So I'm just gonna select this and then make him the geo and make him live. And I'm gonna do one that's like for the clavicle. So I'm just gonna do a shape that kind of follows starting from here and then goes around the back. So I'm gonna use Control Shift and Q for Queensland, and it's gonna give me a little bit of this pointer. And with this pointer, if I go cool, so I'm just gonna create a shape that's easy to select. I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna start around here, do a quad, and it doesn't have to be perfect to what I'm doing, but I'm gonna take consideration where the shoulder is for later. And then I'm gonna go around and just do a shape that's kind of like that. Something that's very small and minimal. So I can say, cool, so that's gonna be the clavicle being selected, kind of thing. That's gonna kind of move around there. And while I'm at it, I'm just gonna do another one that's going to be essentially like the selection of. This is almost like I'm teaching you how to do a topology as well in a way. But this is like cool. So this is going to be like the selection of this fella. And yeah, this is like a nice way to say cool. So if you want to create cool, so let's do something like that. So it kind of like it's easy to select, but they're not like interfering with each other. Something like this. Cool. And that can be a very nice thing for the shoulder. And a lot of companies, they do tools like this. So when you select these, you're actually selecting directly with the mesh. I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna do one more here, so that's kind of close to where that clavicle is, you know, and then you got that one there. Because I already know how this is going to work with everything else. I'm gonna do another one that kind of follows with this because the topology is not very good, so I couldn't do it by hand. So I'm just gonna do something like this for that thumb area over there, like so. And then it kind of like follows out this way. And it will make sense in a minute. You'll be like, ah, cool, that's awesome. This is why we're doing this. So we are essentially modeling in a weird way our controllers, but then it's gonna not take as much space and it's gonna look nice and it's gonna be very close to that skinning when we are rigging this. Okay, so we got this one here. Cool. Now, so the next step to this is we want to pull these out. So we're gonna select those in this mode in here. And in order to pull those guys out, we're gonna go to vertex mode. We're gonna double click on this move tool here. And then we're gonna go oh, that's broken. That's awesome. We're gonna go in here the axis orientation, and we're gonna change the area's axis orientation here to have that to normal. And with the middle mouse in the viewport, we're gonna ideally we don't want to have this in isolation mode, so we can see how far they're being pulled out, and we're doing that like enough so the animator can select it, but not something stupid like this because that's gonna be like counterproductive. It has to be like cool. It's big enough so you know that you're selecting that piece of the geometry, those controllers. And so you can select it here very easily, you can select it here very easily, you can select it here, but it doesn't get in the way and it's not gigantic. So now that we've got this, this fella's here maybe, I'm gonna push this inwards because that's a bit too excessive for the hand. So maybe for the hand, that's hips. And you know what, maybe, yeah, cool. Yeah, something like that. So it's easy to select. Now that we've done this, we're going to create the three series of curves. We're going to go, cool, select that geometry there. To go double click. So that's going to be one curve. If you want this to be a little bit smoother, and this is why I did it with this topology, if I go smooth with just one division, then you're going to get curves that are a little bit smoother. And now we can use that script. We go in here, double click it, click there once. That's our first curve. Then our second curve. And you can't do them all at the same time. You have to do one and one at a time. And then we've got that guy there. Click on the curve. And this is where now we can delete this safely. And now we can just go delete history, delete history, delete history. The next part that we can do is now that's our clavicle that we can select from the back or the front or whatever. We want to make sure that this has got the same pivot point as the clavicle. So we're gonna do it in this order. We're gonna select first a curve, and then we're gonna select this, and we're gonna use inside of match transformations in here, match pivots, and I've got a button for it already, which is MP. Click on that. And now the best way to know this, you need to change this back to reset the tool. And I'm gonna change this to not well, but object. If I select this and I select the bone and they both got the same pivot point, we are good. While we add it, I'm gonna select the bone in here. And I'm gonna, the bone. And I'm gonna double click clavicle. And now I'm just gonna click on the controller. And I'm gonna change this to the name clavicle underscore control, like so. And I'm gonna do that as I do each curve because otherwise I'm gonna forget, right? This one here, which is very nice. I'm gonna match the pivot point, click here, then here, match pivot. Then I'm gonna match the name, shoulder to the curve, call it control. Yeah. And when you create the groups, it automatically changes that around. So that's super nice. Next, let's go here for the thumb, the custom one that we did. This one and then that one. We're gonna match it. And then we're gonna steal the name here. Put it in here. Call this control. Okay. Now, let's do the rest of the controllers. For this one here, I found that doing a circle was enough. And I like to usually use circle controllers with anything that is just basic rotation. So I'm just gonna do, you see how it's pointing towards X? So we can just go in curves, make a curve. Then inside of here with Control A, change the normal from 1, 0, and then maybe the radius to 5. Teleport this to the elbow with that same button. We got match transforms. So now that teleport there, we can change this, the vertices, by clicking here, select all of those guys. We might need to so annoying sometimes. Don't know where my gizmos went on a holiday. Technical difficulties. There you go. Now it's fine. Interesting enough, it goes away when I go control vertex. And then I go on this one here. Huh. There you go. Because this guy's on. Alright, cool. So let's make that a little bit bigger. Okay. Cool. Something like that. Actually, I'm going to leave it there. And then I'm going to do the one for the wrist. The one for the wrist is very interesting. When I prepare for this tutorial, sometimes I'm very bored and I'm very strategic. So what I like to do, I'm going to apply this to be all green on the left side. Sometimes what I like to do is experiment and explore, okay, how can I do this better, or how can I do this in a more interesting way? And so I have discovered a cool way on how to do the selection for the wrist. So it's got that line that goes around the fingers, but it kind of follows very closely to that dimension, and then we can make a curve. So I'll show you how I did this. So we go here to match the pivot point. So now that's the same pivot point as that. So we're done. And we're gonna steal the name of this one, elbow, to the controller. Call this control. And then the next step is now we're going to do the controller for the wrist. So the way that I did it is we're going to go to make a disk, like so. in here, you can change the disc. This is another thing that I discovered not long ago that's really cool. So you can make that to 4 sides of whatever size you want. And then you can change the subdivisions to make it very basic or very complex if you need to. And so for a guy, we can do something like that's enough. Then we select those guys that go around. We can push that to extrude it to make it bigger like that if you want. Okay. And so what I did is, let's make this a little bit bigger. I am matching this to the wrist. So I'm going to go, cool, can you please teleport here? It's going to be super tiny, I think. So let's make it a bit bigger. Rotate that to the right axis. And whenever you select this fella, most people are going to expect to select it from here, but it's selecting the wrist, and that's fine. So we're going to move that down this way. Let's first rotate it to a point that kind of makes sense. Let's try to match that middle line there with that finger. So we got something like that. So that's kind of cool. This is where now we're going to go to the form. Lattice. With a lattice, we can do local divisions. It's okay. So we can do 10, 10, 10. That's like the formation resolution kind of a thing. And then we can go free, free, free. Press apply. Close. And if you checked, if you use this lattice point, we can just move these down. I did it in a way so it's kind of like it's dimensional in a way so it's easy to select at any point. So I'm just going to move that in here. So it's got a bit of that bend, a little bit like that. Cool. And we want that outer line, this line here, to kind of like touch with the outside of the fingers, right? So if I go like that, cool. So that's like the kind of the outside of the fingers. This guy here has to touch like the outside of the thumb. And, you know, a lot of people might argue and say, okay, this is a little bit excessive. You're only doing this for someone to like, you know, enjoy being able to rig with your finger. But no customer is ever going to see this controller. And that is true. But an animator, if you can also argue, an animator is going to spend like a long time animating with your rig. So if they're spending, even if they spend 100 hours, if they've got a really nice rig that looks really nice, it's going to be a lot more enjoyable for them as well, right, to do this. So I'm going to do that. That's good enough. And so now I'm just going to delete the history. The next thing that we can do is we're going to push these guys a little bit this way. So it becomes a lot more visible as well when we select that curve from the sideways like that. Then the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go from here to like maybe to there. Those guys. I think that's a bit too much. I'm going to inverse this selection with Control-Shift-I. And this is going to be a bit weird, but I'm going to extrude this with an offset going inwards. That. That did not work as well as I thought it would. I think it's because it's doing thickness there. That's fine. Okay. We're going to delete those and delete the guys that are inside there. That's cool. And there is something crazy about this because if I smooth this once, then it's going to give a very nice curve around here and around there. So I'm just going to smooth it. Just the one, because that's a bit excessive for something like this. That's nice. And I'm just going to select. It can be the inside or the outside, whatever you prefer. It doesn't matter which one, you know. Looking at this, I think this here could have been a little bit closer to the thumb there, maybe. And this guy could have been maybe a little bit closer to there. But what you don't want is that for the curve to go into the fingers when they're rotating either, but you want them to be kind of close, I guess that's fine. You know, and now we select maybe the outside or whatever, and now we can make that into a curve, right? And you can arguably just go from here to there, to here, to here, something like that. And that might be a little bit simpler and not so obstructive. So now they've got those lines that selected, we can make that into a curve. This one we can delete it. And now we got that really nice handle to select from any direction. We can just go like that and select, and that's going to be our, you know, the guy we select. I think there is a satisfaction from actually doing all of that around. And now we can delete this, delete the other one. Now we can just delete the history just in case. Cool. Hand handle. Select this, then wrist, match, pivot points, select the wrist, rename that to wrist, rename it on here, making sure that that's actually matching. To the object there, so that's got the same pivot point as this one there. So if I'm selecting the wrist, then I go in here, cool. Name, select the name here. Control. Cool. Let's give all of these a color. Awesome. Okay. Let's move on. So let's do now the fingers. So the fingers, I kind of wish I did a separate video, but it's gonna be hard for me to, I think I prefer to do the whole thing at one go. So for the fingers, I did it in a way where you could potentially do this with retopology, or you could potentially do this by selecting the loops. I found that selecting the nails, like so, like this, just around the nails there, and then I make it into a curve. That was enough. But the problem with that is that now that's going to be too close to the actual mesh. So what I did is I duplicated the mesh, like so, hit this one. Then I deleted the parts that I was like, okay, so that's going to be the topology, and I moved them out. So here, for example, and make sure that you see the bones, so you can see the bones clearly. I just went, okay, so this one around here, that can be the one that goes around this wrist. So I just went, detach this part here. Then I detached around there, detach. Then I detach this finger. Detach. And it really depends, like if the topology is completely different to whatever you're doing, it doesn't have this, then I would use some other controllers or something else. Like I will not do it this way. Like there's so many different ways of doing the same thing. I find that as I'm teaching, I get a lot of learners that are like, oh, it's that way or no way. I'm like, no, man, you can just do anything however you want. Just find whatever works for you, whatever suits you. And they look at me and they're like, no, there has to be one way only. And that's the only way. I'm like, whoa, dude. That's not it. Like, you know, like not everything has to be exactly the same pipeline and workflow. That's the thing. If you work in a company and multiple people have to work on the multiple same assets, that would make sense. I'm gonna do one for the ring, so I'm just gonna select around the ring here, That's that guy there. I'm gonna select that ring here, and that ring there as well. So I'm just gonna do it slightly different to what I did in the demo earlier, and I'm gonna do So that's for the nails. This one we don't need it. And this one here, we do need it. Yeah, sure, I'll use that as that area over there. And then I'm gonna do detach. This will make sense in a second. So now we're gonna double click that. So that's gonna be everything else. We're gonna delete it. And pay attention, we're doing this with the duplicate right of the body, so don't freak out. We're gonna delete this, delete this, delete this. Okay. Now we've got this magical, like, weird stuff that we're doing for the fingers to follow with the controllers over there. And mind you, I did not find this from any tutorials or anywhere. This is my workflow that I discovered, and I thought, oh yeah, that's cool. Now we're gonna push that out. So I'm just gonna go components mode again. We're gonna be using the push out with the normals. And ideally, you want to see this with the other guy. So I'm just going to show that for a second. So we know how far away we are going with that. Come on, buddy. Wait, to me, vertex. I want to vertex with you. Okay, cool. And now I'm going to push those out. So it's like something like that. That's stupid. But you want to be like, okay, so it looks like you can select it enough, but it's out enough. So I think something like that could be pretty interesting to select that as the curves, right? So you can, like, it has to be easy to select. And I think something like that could be interesting. And yeah, I think that's going to be really cool as selections. Don't know what happened. Don't know what happened there. So give me a second. So I'm going to go control selection there. I might just do something really cheeky. I'm just going to select those guys and do a merge vertices to collapse those a little bit. That's enough. And there we go. So now let's start doing some curves. So with these curves, I recommend that you do something like that, but then in the bottom there, just connect them like so. Okay, now we can go make a curve. Cool. We go here, same deal. Make a curve. Okay, press G, 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 G. And yeah, I recommend that you do one by one here. We can do the same where they go around the clock, but then G again. G. By the way, I've never done this like this. Even before I started with this tutorial, I was like, oh, that's cool. Let's do it this way. And, you know, as a 3D artist, you should always think, how can I do this better? Is there a better way of doing it? Yeah, you're always going to work in companies that tell you how to do everything, and that's okay. But sometimes, you know, there might be a better software or a better tool, or you can do something a lot quicker. I did find a technique that I'm not going to show in this tutorial, I think, where you can do this whole thing without doing this. You just like press a button and it does everything one go. I'm going to delete this now. We got all those really nice curves. And now if we go back to our thingo, if we go to those curves that we created for all those fingers and controllers, we can give it a color. And look at that. We got some nice topology. It's not too bad to select. We can just select it like that. Click, click, click like that. Or you can just go curve mode and just draw like a little thing. And that's it. It doesn't help that these colors, when you select them, are green. Maybe green's not a great idea. Cool. The next part is let's match the pivot point. So if I go back to this, there's a tool out in this mode. I'm gonna do reset with each of these one by one. So I'm gonna go select. Holiness. Gonna select this. I don't understand why the pivot point is not showing. now when I'm selecting things. So that's becoming a little bit annoying. So give me a second. Hmm. Ah, because it's showing that. Okay, that's fine. And now if I select it here, okay, and this has to be to object. Cool. So I'm gonna select this and then that. So that's fine. That's done. This to here. What? I'm gonna pause this for a second and check, see what's going on with that. So why is the pivot point staying there? It's like sticky. I've never had this issue before. I think my Maya is getting buggy. I'll be back in a second. So restarting Maya for some reason, the pivot point was fine. I was tripping there for a second. I was like, why is the pivot there not working? So with this one here, the pivot point is going to be there. So that's what we need to fix with this. Is we select that and then this. And then we go MP. We go, we select the curve, then this, and then we go MP. Then we go this one, then here. You can press G, and then now that should have the right pivot point. This one, so we go bone. No, sorry, controller bone G to repeat the MP. Curve bone MP G. And sometimes like controller this G. And you know how you see how I'm clicking it again one more time just to see. Cool, that's that. You go uh, controller bone G. Check the controller. Is that controller bone? Press G. Press the controller. Is that controller? Controller bone. Press G. Is that controller bone? Press G. Is that okay? Controller bone. Press G to repeat the command. Controller bone. Press G. The controller is that. Controller bone. Press G. Is that cool? And yeah, just check a second time to see that's all okay. So this is like, and it's very important for sanity check that you do this because each time that I troubleshoot people for their rigs and they're like, oh, it's broken. Why is it broken? I'm like, did you check? Did you do this check? And they're like, me check? What's that? What's the word of checking things? I'm like, well, if things are broken, maybe they do that. All right, so the names are there. So now we're gonna do the names, and now that's split again. So that's awesome. So let's do window layout, split vertically, and now let's do some names. So anything that's got polycurve to whatever, we need to go in here. And trust me, do this first and then do the groups, because otherwise you will have to rename two things instead of one. So we're gonna find that guy there, Nick Thumb. We're gonna go in here, change that, call this control. Okay, go in here. And you know what? I'm not gonna do the control part. I'm gonna show you something cool in a second. It's gonna go this one here. You select the curve. Let's find it in here. Thumb number 3. And yeah, this is very tedious. There are ways to do this automatically for you, but you need to pay for those scripts, which is a little bit annoying. And I'm not ready to make a tutorial with a paid script because I don't want for you guys to feel like, oh, like I don't have the money to pay this. Maybe I'll have to follow another tutorial and stuff. And, maybe we don't want that. Okay. And sometimes just, we don't need to like find the button for the next one. We just need to change that to number 3. That's enough. This one here is for the index middle. So we go in here, go middle 1, middle with a 2, and then middle with a 3. And then let's carry on. Ring, 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 banana phone. Ching chan, ching chan. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to. Da, da, da. Let's change that to a number 2. Let's change this to a number 3. Dun 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 dun. Bom bim bunka boom bunka bottom boom and a tin tin dun dum bum bim ba boom 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 bam ba bum bam bum ba dum bum 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 ba bum boom. And by the way, with fingers like this, you can do in some points set driven keys. So then instead of like selecting one by one and then you do that, you can um, just do like do everything they do like this, or just do one per finger, so you can have different things move at different rates. So you can do that with set driven keys if you want to look for tutorials, something like that. That's one thing. And the other thing, you can also have selection sets, so you can select these guys, and then you have a button using a studio library or something like that, and then you can make this as selection sets as well to make animation a bit easier. Okay, we got this done. We got all the curves done. Finally, it looks very different to what I did show you in the very beginning of the video, but it's gonna do the same thing. And now we're gonna start doing the constraints. Before we do the constraints, however, I like to do the grouping. So now let's select those guys. We're gonna use our control script in here. Change that to just oh, we forgot to do one more thing, is to change all of these that says GNT. I'm gonna change that to control with the renaming tool. So anything that's got underscore GNT, I'm gonna change it to underscore control. Yeah, cool, cool, cool. Rename. Awesome. And now we can select all of those. And here, let's see if I kind of wish there was a way to, like, when you do this into a group, maybe there is a way that you, when you make into group, it changes everything that says control and offset, takes out the control. But it's okay, we can do that a lot easier. We can just say, cool, just make this offset, and then anything that you find control offset to just have offset, right? And hopefully that works and it doesn't change anything that's inside. Very cool indeed. So we've got all of those with the offsets done as well. And we also got that with these guys in there. So now let's try to do the constraints for each of these. Everything has to be orient. The only ones that are not using orient is the clavicle. So the clavicle, this part here, well, I guess it stays there, but to have the flexibility to do these and back and forward, you might want to like be able to move it a little bit. So we're gonna do instead of orient, we're gonna do parent on that one. So we're gonna go make sure that it's got the same pivot point, the same direction. We're gonna go. The curve is the boss of this one. But the problem with this is we want to make sure that we have the hierarchy first and then we do the constraints, because what happens is if you do orient and then you test that, it might work weird if you do a bunch of them and then it's gonna look off and then you're gonna think things are broken. So let's do the parenting first with the controllers, and that's fine. So we're gonna do it's gonna be a bit annoying, so let's go this one here. Anything that you select, press up, and then you select this one, and then press P, then press this one, press up, which selects the group, then you select with shift here, and then you press P. That's one way of doing it. And sometimes, again, you check that, you go 1, 2, 3, that works. Okay. And sometimes you can hide that so then you don't get confused. But then this is where you know, cool. So if I select this and I rotate in this way, that rotates correctly. And then you move to the next one. Again, select this one, press up, then shift, select, then P. That's the best way, so you don't have to go in here and go select this one then, press up, then shift click in here, press P. Okay, and now that's all 1, 2, 3. If you select those, rotate, cool, that seems to be fine. Select this one, P. Oh no, sorry, no, nothing to do with P yet. This one up, then this one P, then up, then this one P. Cool, and now we can just check all of those like so. And by the way, when I open with the arrow and they all open together at once, I just shift click on the plus. Up, click here, P, click here, up, shift click P. And again, I go here, open this. Cool, I select tan, rotate, cool. That works okay. And I'm gonna do one more time. Press up, click, P, up, click, P. Check in here. 1, 2, 3. I select those. The curve. Awesome. Now I'm gonna select, gonna open. And you can do this with dragging with the middle mouse button. I'm gonna go middle ring, pinky, and the thumb, those groups, and I'm gonna drag these so they parent to the curve of the wrist. Middle mouse, drag in here. Okay, so now that's all. So if I rotate the wrist, they all should be parented together just as fine. Okay. Let's carry on. So now, let's go. Wrist of the grip is the child of the elbow. Then the elbow is the child of the shoulder. Then the shoulder is the child of the clavicle. Awesome. So now if I move this, and this is where it's a good idea just to have curves. Cool. I select that. That works. That works. This works. Cool. Select this guy. That works. Okay. And if I select all of those minus the curve, if I do this rotation thing, wee, that works. All right, cool. I'm very excited. Let's do now the last part, okay? Which is doing the orient constraints kind of stuff. I kind of wish we had some shortcuts with those because I wish I had like a control P or something like that, like or control O, so I could just go click, click, click. But that's okay. So let's go. Master, and then worker. Let's call it Lord and worker, just for fun. Lord and worker. So we go Lord and worker. Then we go parent constraints. By the way, I'm gonna save this. It's a good idea whenever you're happy and you finish a task and you're very meticulous and you go, okay, I've finished this one thing. You save it, then you do the thing, and then if it's something's broken and you don't know why, you can revert and go back to that state. So I'm gonna go Lord worker, press this guy here. So this is your parent constraint. Again, you test it. So if I select that and I move it, that moves. That's great. Then we go this one here. We go Lord worker. This one here is going to be an orient. So let's go orient constraint. Then we go this one, this one. I'm not gonna say this over and over again. I'm just gonna do it very quickly. because I think you got a good idea. If you can't find it in here, you can just go click wrist to wrist, orient. Um, I wish there was a way that you can select all of these one by one. I'll just do it for you automatically. I'm pretty sure there are scripts that can do this for you out there. Like I've also found a few scripts. And again, you can just press G with orient and it will do it, right? And ideally, you want to test this as you go. Because there's nothing worse than you miss something by accident. Like here, for example, I missed this. You know, you don't want to be that person be like, oh, this is not working. Why? Okay. Now, that works. Cool. Select this to this, G. 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 By the way, I forget rigging every year because I only teach it once for a few weeks, or 1 week, or 2 weeks, or something like that. And then after that, I teach another 10 different subjects at school. And then I'll get back to that week, and students will be like, teachers, teachers. And I'm like, I don't remember. I'll be like, ah, what is this? Ooh, there's something cooking here. That's not normal. I think it's because I've got the bone selected as well. Oh, because I got this one selected too. Hey, okay, so that looks like it's working just fine. Cool. All right. We're done for this. If you want to check very quickly to see how this is being rigged, it's a good idea to do a quick skin bind like I did in the very beginning of the video. It's a 47-minute video. I don't know how to make this faster. But I'll see you in the next video and good luck.